Concerned students, parents, and educators across the world made their voices heard this past weekend with the goal of stopping gun violence. Never Again RVA, formed in the River City. Creator Scott Dickens joins us this morning. Good to see you, sir. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. You are, I'm going to start with this, a proud Hokie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a little old to have been there during the shooting, but it certainly struck home.
Yeah, I would imagine that if, and I have a son that went to Virginia Tech, that's a pretty tight-knit community. And they love Blacksburg, they love the Hokies, and they love each other. So how old were you when this happened, and what started right after that?
The thing for me about gun violence and the things that we saw at Virginia Tech and many times since then is that I find it hard to imagine, as a kid or even when I was at Tech, having that worry. I mean, I never thought that anything like that could happen in sleepy little Blacksburg, And it was a lot of the same thing around Richmond. How long is it going to be before something catastrophic like that happens here? We've seen it over and over again at different schools across the country. And as this thing happened in Florida this last time at Parkland, I felt like I had to do something. I'd seen it enough. And so the initial thought was, well, what good can I do owning an agency and, web development company? It was the first thing I thought of was maybe I can help organize specifically for Richmond and help give voice to people here who have an opinion and have great ideas, but maybe not a good vehicle for them.
Yeah. You point out a little bit of a paradox here. You say Richmond is the home of some of the brightest minds and obviously a highly educated population in some sectors and a lot of sectors. And on the other hand, extremely violent gun violence is, we're not talking about schools, we're talking on the streets. It's prevalent in our city. And that paradox obviously is on your mind as well.
Yeah, Richmond, when I lived in Churchill years ago, we were, I think, the #2 murder capital in the country per capita. And I think we've done a lot of great things, since then to help curb that. But the number of guns on the street in Virginia as a whole, in Central Virginia, and the crimes that are committed with those, I kind of felt like it was almost inevitable that it would happen here sooner or later. I mean, knock on wood, it never does to the extent that it did in Parkland. But people need to be made aware of that. And I think that there's very few places, I can't think of any reason why anybody would need a weapon of war. And to me, that's what that AR-15 automatic rifle is. It's meant to kill as many people as possible in as short amount of time as you can. So Richmond just seems to me to be this great budding community of educated, in touch people with great sense to new causes, and I think that this cause with the kids behind it and the kid-led cause from Parkland really strikes home here with VCU and all the great education communities we have here.
We always hear that our society and our country is so divided. So how do you address that person who bought an AR-15 for sport and they like to go shoot it at a target and they say, this is basically something I enjoy? How do you tell them that they can't do that?
In my mind, that weapon is created for one purpose. I mean, it was never created to be a sporting weapon. If you take that weapon to a gun range and you're trained on it, whether you're in the Army or in other forces, you're aiming at targets that are shaped like humans. You're not aiming at circular targets. You're not aiming at deer-shaped targets. And in my mind, I think there are some really practical things that can happen as far as curbing gun violence that don't involve taking any weapons from anybody. Things like banning bump stocks and universal background checks and mental health, programs that can help curb this. But also, weapons of war really have no place in the hands of citizens. I mean, they were created, in the Vietnam era for soldiers to take in. They have very little recoil. They're not hard to shoot. So it makes it a perfect weapon for these mass murders.
Let's get to, in the time we've got remaining, the fact that you want to get folks to go on Facebook and sign up and take part in the actual debate and give their opinions.
Yeah, well, we started NeverAgainRVA.com as a vehicle for local and regional citizens and students and teachers to offer their own opinions and they can post their own videos. They could take part in things that we did. We filmed 2 days of interviews with kids and some parents and some teachers, and that's up on the website as well. But if you go there and hit the Get Involved link, there are easy ways to sign up to vote. I mean, if you're coming up and you're going to be 18 soon, you need to pre-register. You need to get out there and make your opinion heard. And I think this is a more motivated youth movement than we've seen since the civil rights era. So all we're trying to do is help provide a voice and a method for people locally to have their opinions heard.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Keep up the good work.